Rotherham, born of industry and nestled in the South Yorkshire hills, sometimes struggling to keep pace with the times, but on the face of it, a respectable working-class town. Safe, but it's also a place that holds its secrets close, beneath the surface, where they've been allowed to fester and grow. Innocence doesn't live here anymore.
They put her down an alleyway and they would all line up and get blowjobs, oral sex from her. And I used to see it with my own eyes.
Emma was 13 when she first watched a friend being abused by a gang of men preying on young girls in Rotherham in 2003. She had no idea that she, too, had been singled out for their use.
And even though I was associating with the same people that were doing this to her, I still believe that, well, I will never do that because I'm not like her. I never thought that I would be that girl.
But she did become that girl. And so too did at least 1,400 others in the town. Targeted, groomed, raped, and then prostituted over a 16-year period. The gangs were nearly always men of Pakistani origin, working as taxi drivers or at late-night takeaway shops, developing a network first for their own sexual gratification and then as a money-making proposition, and they were sophisticated. The grooming process was slow, deliberate, careful. The girls would meet young boys their own age here in the centre of town who would buy them Coca-Colas, hot chocolates. But soon older men started to mix into the group. An uncle, a brother, and before you knew it, the hot chocolates had been replaced by drugs and alcohol.
And I suppose grooming is just somebody becoming your friend, figuring out what it is you want and need from life and turning themselves into that person who can give you that. And then when they've got you right where they want you, that's when they start doing the bad things.
For Emma, the bad things started in these deserted market stalls. She was raped here by the man pretending to love her.
And next thing I knew, he'd got my trousers down and my underwear, he took my shoes off, he'd got me on the floor. Other men from the group had come. He was on top of me, raping me. There was another man holding me down by my arms and trying to shove his penis in my mouth. Someone was holding my ankles.
Then began the threats to tell her family, to show them pictures, to hurt them. Emma's grades fell, classmates called her a slut in the hallways, and strange men collected her from school in taxis. And yet, there was apparently no call to her family from the school. It was the first of what would be many failures in the system.
I'd have to have sex with whoever wanted to have sex with me. And I stopped. I think a part of me just stopped fighting. You know, I got to a point where it was easier. I learned that it was easier to not fight and just do what they wanted, because that way I would come out less harmed.
Rotherham is littered with damaged souls, and as shocking as Emma's story is, even more shocking is the indifference with which it and others like it were met by the South Yorkshire Police and the Town Council. They were called in by Emma's family after she finally told them what was happening nearly a year after the abuse had begun. Evidence Emma had hidden, soiled clothing she was afraid her family would see in the laundry hamper, was turned over to the police, but promptly misplaced. The police department sent her a cheque for lost property.
I think that they didn't really believe her, right? And that's not just happened to my daughter, that's happened to a lot. That they were probably silly little slappers, in effect, right? Even though they're only 11, 12 or 13. Or 14 or 15, but they're still children.
Like the abuse itself, the indifference to it was also a pattern in Rotherham, until 2012, when a single newspaper reporter revealed the scale of the child grooming rings at work, fed all these years by impunity.
I had to live with this for 12 years.
It unleashed a firestorm of public outcry, of hearings and inquiries, police officials and the town council clinging on to power until earlier this year.
You were a disgrace, man. If I had
Wholly dysfunctional and not fit for purpose. That's how the Rotherham Council was described by not one, but two damning reports, outlining a culture of bullying, sexism, and silencing whistleblowers. Dr. Angie Heal was one of the first in Rotherham to sound the alarm in 2003. Working for the South Yorkshire Police on drug syndicates, she found a clear link with child prostitution rings, alerting the police and the council.
There was very little reaction at all, which really surprised me because I was not holding back what I reported. It was very, very clear the scale of abuse that was going on.
She continued to send in reports for 3 years, all ignored, before she was encouraged to change jobs.
Amongst the local politicians there was, shall we say, denial that this could possibly happen in their town of Rotherham.
Alexis Jay, a former chief social work inspector, was hired by the council to conduct an independent report into allegations of misconduct and negligence. She says a decade's worth of pain could have been avoided had the whistleblowers been listened to and the children not treated with such utter contempt.
I don't know what the couple, how you describe having such appalling attitudes to young girls, to being so judgmental as to think that this was consensual when they were being raped as young as 11 or 12, multiply, week on week.
This is a town where just about every safety lever, every level of care, every alarm bell put in place to protect children failed, and catastrophically so. For the victims, it must have felt at times as if the whole town was complicit.
Now I feel that I do want justice, not only towards my perpetrators, but towards the people who didn't do their job correctly.
In February, the British government finally forced the Rotherham Council to resign en masse, 3 years after the abuse scandal came to light. In the town centre, hollowed out and empty, like the coal mines that once gave it life, the mood is depressed, defensive. Are you shocked by it?
Yeah, I am, and it's a little bit embarrassing as well. If anybody asks where I'm from, I'll always say Sheffield now.
It is shocking because, you expect the people that you elect and that are in higher powers to protect you. You know, if anything goes wrong and you think, well, if this has been going on and there's been cover-ups, you're thinking that's not really a good thing.
Feeding off the scandal and stirring up racial tensions, the far right. The English Defence League holding regular rallies here, using the Pakistani origin of most of the perpetrators as a reason to bash foreigners. The streets are tense, especially at night.
So the answer is they need to deal with this problem.
These young men of Asian heritage say some in the white community are treating them like groomers just because of the colour of their skin.
I was just walking through town with a couple of friends, and a man out of nowhere just came past in a van and started shouting "Paki pedos."
It's unnerving, they say, and lots of their friends now carry knives.
The problem is, that the council didn't deal with it. They made stuff worse, and then I don't want to get blamed for what somebody else has done because we're our own people.
Rotherham may have been forced to finally unearth its secrets, but that doesn't mean it's come to terms with them yet. The South Yorkshire Police refused to give the CBC an interview, nor will they say how many arrests have actually been made. We calculate them at a mere handful. In the meantime, victims like Emma share the streets with the perpetrators of the crimes against them, the horrific becoming the mundane.
Everybody in Rotherham knows who has been exploited and who hasn't, and who perpetrators are, but also it's become sort of part of growing up and normal in Rotherham that you're exploited.
There are dozens of other investigations into child sex abuse scandals currently ongoing in the United Kingdom. And many in Rotherham shrug their shoulders and say, see, it happens everywhere. Maybe so, say critics, but that doesn't negate the need to deal with the problem in Rotherham. And until that happens, the potential for a further betrayal of innocence remains. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Rotherham.